Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started TogetherForSharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is just an incredible person, somebody representing the globe, not just her country or even here as we try to represent the US. I feel that everybody has to be a family in this fight together to find a cure for Parkinson's. So just wanted to welcome you to our show. I consider her celebrity known as Mommy Snippets. But she's
Oh,
gonna
you're too kind.
and we're promote her, all about her, and get to know her a little better. But I'm lucky enough we've been friends for some time, so this is the first time we got a chance to talk, and I'm really honored to have
Yes.
you, and really excited to talk today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, maybe you could start us off with a little bit about your background and yourself, and then we'll really jump
Yeah.
right into some important topics.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Snehal. I am originally from Mumbai in India, but I've been living in the UK for the past 16 years. So, UK is home now. And as I'm a writer and poet by profession, but previously I was into human resources management, and my background is in psychology basically. So I have at the moment I have three books that I've released. They are primarily chapbooks, poetry chapbooks, and they are on various topics. But one of them is to do with my changing concept of self that kind of happened once I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I was diagnosed about 3 years ago formally, but I think I have had the symptoms since the last 6 years or so, I would say. And it took about 3 years to diagnose. So that's, I think, probably talk about that a bit later on. But in terms of my current life, I have two young kids. They are 7 and 4, two boys. So they just keep me busy all the time. And I try and write whenever I can, and I try and dance, and I try to keep my mood up because I think that's the main the whole point of this is to create that positivity to ensure that we do have hope as we go forward. So
Right.
yeah, thank you, George.
Thanks. No, I mean, I always try to come up lately, the last few shows, with one word, and I think a smile when I think of you, because every time I'm kind of going through some tough times or thing, but then I see you jumping around dancing, and I want to
Thank
jump.
you so much.
I want to do right with you. So someday we'll have to have a virtual dance together. You'll probably be better than me, though. But no, so it's
Oh,
not
thank you
just
so much.
hey, not just inspiring individuals fighting Parkinson's, but I still think you can capture so many around the world, out of the Parkinson's community too. So again, I really appreciate what you do. It's not easy these days in 2024. So we always have family and disease and
Yeah.
life, but then to stop for a moment, just to smile, I think changes so many worlds. So again, you're the best.
Oh, thank you so much. You're too kind.
And I also love that you're coming from another country, which is incredible. I do want to get a little into social media soon, but it's an
Yeah.
amazing tool when it's used for the positive, right? That you can reach
Yeah.
so many people. And I always say, if we just reach one person in this show who might feel
Yes.
alone, we've changed their life forever. So,
Absolutely.
and I'm so grateful for your time because, we've worked a little together over the years, and it's just
Yeah.
amazing how many more people we could reach together.
Yes. Absolutely.
So thinking of dancing, I'm going to share a little something, but what keeps you going, during some days, which might be struggle? I know family, which I love this photo. And if everybody has
Yeah.
time, if you go to TogetherForSharon.com and just click interviews, you can see the interview in full, our beautiful family, and a lot more in depth, that we
Yeah.
might not have a chance to get to. But what kind of keeps you going when you do have to also go through some of those tough, fights and struggles?
Yeah. So like for me, it's my kids. I think they don't know me without the condition because they were very young when I was diagnosed formally. In fact, my diagnosis happened soon after my first son was born, and I mean the symptoms started then. Actually, my diagnosis was much later. But I think what keeps me going is my kids. Like I want to be as healthy and as fit as possible for them because they're very young at the moment. They're 7 and 4,
Mhm.
and I know that they do adapt, which is brilliant. Like they are very empathetic, Especially my older one is very kind of clued into my needs, and I think like he knows exactly when I need to rest and when I am like 100%. When I'm on my off time, he knows that as well. Like, so for example, he'll be like, "Mummy, can you get me XYZ from the kitchen?" Like when I'm on my on time, but on my off time, he'll do it himself. So it's just like he just adapts, which I find like so beautiful. And
Right.
I for that them to have that at that age. So yeah, to answer your question, it's my kids that keep me going.
I appreciate you sharing that, and they are beautiful. I have three children. They're around the similar age, and I
Yeah.
imagine it's definitely they're the ones keeping you smiling and jumping around dancing.
Yes.
Have
Yeah, yeah.
you had any videos with them jumping with you or not yet?
Yes, I do have some. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a few reels I've done with them because they want to get involved as well. Yeah.
Nice. And then why did, I always say repeatedly, which probably everyone is tired of hearing it or proud of it, but Michael J. Fox has been a hero of mine. I had the honor to meet him, but part of it is because, he could have kind of led a nice private life, which is nothing wrong with that. Instead, he
Yeah.
decided to fight kind of back for everybody. And I see that that's something similar to what you're doing. And especially the topic of young onset, which is very important today, because either there's more individuals gaining it the
Yeah.
younger, or it's just that social media is now giving a voice because it's such a beautiful community that I consider you all my family, but younger. So maybe we could kind of focus a little on, what it's like to have Parkinson's a little younger, and also what made you kind of throw the towel in, put on the cape, and become like super mom and go on social media. And I want to share everyone this is her
Yeah.
incredible social media that I follow, and I just think it's beautiful because it's not only done great, but it brings life to the story, and I think that's very important.
Thank you so much. I think for me, like I want to break this whole notion that Parkinson's happens only to old people because it's happening, like you said, to young people too. And I want to normalize talking about it, and that's why I'm so open about it because I think if, for example, I'm at a social event and I get my tremors, or if I'm get extremely stiff, or my dystonia and my foot kicks in, then obviously I'm not going to be able to walk properly and so on. So and I want people to not then stand there and stare at me like, okay, what's going on with you? But like, I want them to treat it as any other condition. Like, for example, if there's something that if I physically had a crutch or whatever, then probably it would be more accepted. But if I'm hobbling around, people are just like, oh, yeah, are you okay? That kind of thing. So I think I just want to change that attitude. And especially the community that I come from, the South Asian community, it's everything is just under the carpet. Like people don't talk about these things. People, and when they do talk about it, it's like very in a very abstract way. Like they'll say things like, oh, maybe it's your bad karma, or maybe it's the evil eye, on all these kind of topics don't really help because you're trying to process it and deal with it at your own level, and then you have these random things being thrown at you saying, okay, maybe it's this or maybe it's that. And so I think I just want to just clear out those misconceptions about the condition, and also say to people that it can happen to somebody who's young, and there are a lot of hidden symptoms that people don't know about. So I think I want to talk about those too, like, and that's what I'm trying to do through my advocacy, like trying to talk about the hidden symptoms of Parkinson's. It can be cognitive too, it can be emotional. You are more prone to depression because of the dopamine that is not effectively being produced and so on in the brain. So I think a lot of the it's a very complicated thing because obviously it's to do with the brain, which is complicated. So and like and like as Michael J. Fox said himself, that it's a snowflake disease. So each person has it, manifesting differently. So I think that's what it is, and I think that's what people need to be aware of.
And I think it's important. Plus, to send the message around the world is even more important. There's others like you in India and around the UK that might feel alone. And when they do see you, and I want to try and click this. There you go. I love that.
Yeah,
I love watching
yeah,
you watch yourself. But I actually gave a lecture in India online, a virtual, but it was a conference. It didn't have to do with Parkinson, but I try to reach other countries and the US.
right,
But for people who don't have Parkinson's and people who are not caregivers, because I feel that if we can get everyone involved, then we'll be closer to a cure. So that's
yes,
why I was so excited that we met a long time ago, because I want to reach India just as much as I want to reach the US, because I think everybody has an important mission and objective, but reaching the people seems with awareness to be the toughest part.
Yes, yes, that's true. And I think even though, I mean, I know of people who have Parkinson's in India, and I got to know them through social media, and they tell me that it's so much harder there because I think people are like they don't want to talk about it, and people just are either like toxic positivity or it's like denial. So there's no kind of acceptance at any level, and I think that's really hard. And that's when like when I told them about support groups that they can access online and stuff, they were really like happy that they have some support even if it's online, there is support available.
I love the videos. I found your one with the children.
Yes.
They're distracting. I'm trying to
Yeah.
interview you, but I'm having fun watching the videos. But so let's turn a little, and soon I'll stop sharing. But there's a beautiful with writing. I love poetry. I can't do it. I actually play guitar. I can't write, but I can play.
Wow,
My brother's
that's
into
great.
poetry, but what made you kind of discover poetry, and what are you currently working on in terms of writing today?
Yeah, so I've always written poetry. I mean, I think I started writing when I was maybe in high school. And then I basically use poetry as a means of catharsis, if you like. I mean, because I think I underwent like so many complex emotions, especially the first year of diagnosis, and
Yeah.
I think poetry really helped me to kind of channelize that, channelize those emotions and kind of make sense of them, really. Because otherwise, because like there's a saying that says there's a saying that I heard recently which said, "You get it only if you get it." So like I think that made a lot of sense to me. So however much I try explaining to my husband or whoever it is, like my best friend, people do understand, but they won't understand until they have it. So I think, that's where I find this power that I get like through shared experience that I find via social media. And I think that's like you said, such a beautiful community out there. And I think that's really helped.
Well,
Um, so in terms of poetry, I have written one book which is specifically, where I've kind of written in reference to Parkinson's and how my concept of self changed since I was diagnosed and so on. I'd like to read a couple of poems
yeah.
from that, if you like.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and my current projects are basically I'm working on two memoirs. One is to do with my growing up days in Bombay and also my relationship with my grandmother. That's one of them. That's the current one. And my most important project, which is I'm going to treat it with kids' gloves, is my memoir about living with young onset Parkinson's.
That's beautiful.
So, so I'm
And
definitely, yeah. So I am definitely going to be working on that. I'm taking some professional advice in terms of editing and stuff as well on that. So I really want that to launch well so that it reaches as many people as possible because I think it's important to get my story out there because I think even if two or three people resonate with it, like I think the job will be done because I think that's what. And the good thing is that I know that my writing does appeal to people because I have people writing to me saying that you are actually articulating things that we want to say but we can't for one reason or the other, and they're so grateful, and I think that also keeps me going because like if it's helping people, yes, I will do my best to help people out there, definitely.
thanks. Yeah, and how do you keep the moves new and innovative? The dance moves. How do you? Because
I
they
think I've
look.
always loved dancing actually, and
Yeah,
I
that's
think it just comes naturally to me. I think, but like in my off time, I'm like very awkward, but like when this is my complete on time, so you can see the differences.
I
Yeah,
love it. Yeah, if you would like to share one or two of the poems, and then also
yeah,
when it is time to release them, let me know and we'll share it everywhere too.
yes, yeah. So the book is called I Am. I'm sorry, I was supposed to send you a copy, but I just
Oh, thanks.
didn't get
Beautiful.
around to doing it.
I love it.
And it's available, I think, on Amazon. I think I'm not sure right now, but um, so the poems that I wrote primarily deal with the emotions that I went through, especially uh, as soon as I got diagnosed, and then how I became more self-aware and the emotions that I went through, how I accepted the condition, and then focusing on hope. Really, like that's where we are at the moment. So the first one is called Disillusionment, and it's a short poem, but this is what it says. This is a poem I wrote towards the end of the year that I was diagnosed, 2021. Disillusionment. This year is coming to an end. and what a year it's been. A year of revelations that broke me, yet here I am. For in its most difficult days, I learned how to rely only on myself, whilst the words, "Let me know if there's anything I can do," followed me rather begrudgingly, reminding me of paper planes, directionless and short-lived. I think this is a statement that I used to get very often when I used to share with people my diagnosis, and they like, let me know if there's anything I can do, and then I would not hear from them for like many days or many months, and I'm like, okay, what happened there? Like, so I think I think people don't know what to say, but they just say these things, and sometimes it just comes across as very shallow, and I think that's why I wrote this poem, because it really like got to me, like, if you don't mean it, don't say it, kind of thing. So I think that was the whole um, thing that I wanted to capture in this poem. Um, the second poem that I wanted to share was to do with self-awareness, because I think it's so important to really understand yourself and what you're going through, especially when you're given such a big, huge diagnosis. So it's called a self-portrait, and just send this page. So this is a self-portrait, so of myself, and this was essentially about 3 or 4 months into diagnosis. She sits on the family bed, one babe on lap, the other asleep by her knee. Her hair is in a messy bun, loose curls escaping her hairband, much like the thoughts racing through her mind, waiting to manifest into words on paper. Her eyes are observant, determined, absorbing everything around her, taking it all in. Her face is expressionless, a somber look that she blames on the disease plaguing her brain. Her neck is long, almost aristocratic in its appearance, aiding her to hold her head high as she wades through the strong currents of the fierce sea, her life. Her shoulders are far from symmetric, for they have carried far too much weight at an age so young. Her heart, however, is golden, shining its kind light on whoever she meets, for she knows what it's like to wake up every morning and fight another day.
Uh,
So this is
I feel like
thank you.
we're in a movie, and that's the opening of the movie, and you just start saying maybe you'll be a movie writing next.
So this is a self-portrait. And then, the third thing I wanted to share was the emotional upheaval. I think it's so important because, nobody asks you, especially I think for me, nobody really asked me, how do you feel about this condition? And I think that's when, because I was just working in like a robot mode, because like, we had a pandemic at the time as well. And then I had my kids who were so young, and I think it was just like in survival mode. And I really didn't think like from an emotional point of view about how I feel about this condition. So this is something that I wrote around that time. It says emotional potpourri, diced emotions served with trite questions, blending with my already befuddled thoughts. Anger coursing through my body, threatening to escape in the form of piercing screams, but all I manage are quiet tears of frustration. Hope gently making its presence felt, hesitant but perseverant. Grief washing up to my senses in sync with the tides of the sea. Courage knocking on my heart, much like a woodpecker, encouraging, cajoling, victorious. So I think what I try and do in my poems is like I try and like keep it real, but at the end of the day, like there is always hope, and I think that's what people need to realize. For every bad day, there will be a good day, and I think it's easy to say like I'm saying it now, but when going through a bad day, like I'm like, okay, maybe it's not going to get better, but then I remind myself, okay, I've had good days, so it's okay. So yeah. Um, then the next one I wanted to share was acceptance. So accepting the condition. I think this is a huge part of it. It's a very short poem. It says unbecoming. Underneath the boundless sky, life lends me perspective. I'm slowly beginning to swallow my old self. I have forgotten how it is to feel normal, the disconnect far too apparent. I'm learning to unlearn old norms, recalibrate expectations, reevaluate relationships. And as I do this, I can see a new self appearing, emerging, becoming. For it is in my unbecoming that I am reborn.
Beautiful.
So
Very
this
powerful.
one,
They're powerful and so important. Shows, when I wrote my first book with my mother, I kept a journal the last year of her life, and
yeah,
I kind of try to express in words, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The poetry
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing because it brings it all out of one spot. I can't do it, but I'm glad I'm glad you do and that you shared it today. And we'll share this, of course, around the world forever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Uh,
There's just one last one. It's just about
please.
hope because I think it's so important.
Yep.
It's just a letter to Hope. Dear Hope, I can feel you flickering within the deepest caverns of my heart. You're often fighting against cruelty in its rawest form, yet you continue to stay a light. You feed on the nuances of encouragement, but what really molds you is the beauty of kindness. And when I feel your flame shining brightly, I hear you whisper, "We've got this."
I love that. I
So,
mean, hope's the most important one out of them all.
yes,
Sometimes I
yes,
want,
yeah,
sometimes I want to kind of shake hope and say, "Where, how,
yeah,
like, why are you taking so long?" Hope
yeah,
that those are amazing, and I hope we get to see more of that in the years to come. So I appreciate you sharing.
yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Now I want to shift a little now to another area, and that's more about you, which is the fun part. We talked about your work, your family, all incredible, and now a little bit about you. Can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
3 words to describe me. Uh, Perseverant, I would say, efficient, and fun.
I see that in the videos.
Yeah, I love a good laugh. Yeah.
This is an interesting question. Maybe you could tackle this one, but what is one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out so far through all of your awareness that you could share? Is there one moment that you kind of sticks out in your mind that was the most exciting for you
About awareness, like spreading awareness.
that you've done? Mhm.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I think there was one post that I had recently posted actually, where I had gone to visit my neurologist, and basically I passed through the same road that I went to university at, and I saw the university halls that I lived in. And there was a little note that I written about my encounter with my past self, the girl who was walking by the university halls, and I saw her and so on. And I think that appealed to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people wrote to me privately, and they commented as well, saying that, this is so brilliant, and like we could imagine you, and we could relate to it as well, because I think a lot of people who have Parkinson's, you know, are constantly dealing with so much change in themselves, and like physically, emotionally, everything. So I think just this concept of self just keeps changing all the time, and I think this is one particular note that I think appealed to a lot of people for sure. Yeah.
And one area I'm curious is, I probably know the answer, which is your children, but who helps you during times of struggle? I was a caregiver, and what tips can you give those listening who are caregivers?
I think my husband, I would say, is my primary caregiver, and he is brilliant. He has been my biggest support since the day of diagnosis, I would say. And he has, I mean, I basically, was like, I said to him, like, it's not fair on you and so on. He was like, would you have said the same thing if I was in your position? And I think that just put things in perspective for me. And he is just, he preempts a lot of things. He is so in tune with my needs. And I think I'm just so grateful for him, to be honest. It's not easy, the job of a caregiver, for sure, because I think, dealing with the person who has Parkinson's, and especially a young person who has Parkinson's, is I think it's even more difficult, because we have to deal with life as life is. Life continues, as it as your work will continue, things will continue as they are, but you have to change, you have to adapt to the situations. And I think for caregivers, I would just say that, thank you first of all for whatever you guys are doing. I think it's brilliant. Secondly, I think in terms of yeah, I think just have patience, I would say, with the person who has Parkinson's, because a lot of times, like, we are dealing with things that we ourselves don't know. Like, we don't know how our condition is going to pan out on a particular day, because it's so unpredictable. And I think communicating that to people around you, even if they are like your closest people, is very hard, because people, they see you upbeat and 100% 1 hour of the day, and suddenly you're down and out the next hour. So I think understanding that, and patience, I would say, communication, just keep communicating with us, because I think we do appreciate it. And also, there are times when, personally, I sometimes want space as well, like especially when I'm going into my off time. I know that, I get very irritable, and like he bears the brunt of it all, unfortunately. So I think it's just trying to give us space when we need it. Yeah, I would just say that.
Thanks. We send our love to your husband, the whole family, and everyone out there listening. Because again, sometimes they see kind of you as the spokesperson and the advocate, but they forget the people behind the scenes that also make it.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Is there something you might have done differently looking back the past 10 years?
Something that I would have done differently. I think I would have asked for help sooner, because I think initially I was very adamant that I wanted to do everything by myself, and I was too hard on myself, especially the first 2 years of diagnosis. And I think I wanted to just prove that this, I can beat this thing, and like I can do everything by myself. I don't need help, and so on. And then like it started taking a toll on my body, and I knew that I needed to do something, and that was I asked for help. And I think if I was to do something differently, I would definitely have asked for help previously. Yes.
Excellent. And just remember, we're always here too, fighting right by your side. And I love the opportunity when we talk and and you're going to be in, obviously, you're already on the website, but you'll be in one of the future voices of resilience because you're one of my heroes. So I appreciate it again.
Oh, thank you so much.
The next one I love. You ready for this one? If we had a drum roll, I'd but if you could, if you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it? That's my favorite one.
Mm, this is an interesting one. I would say, uh,
You could think about it. By the way, what is Mommy Snippets from? Like, how'd you get the name Mommy Snippets?
I just because I'm a mommy, and then I started this page because I was sharing activities about kids and stuff like during lockdown, and so mommy, and then snippets because I share snippets from my daily life. So I think that's what, like, you just get glimpses into my life. So that's why.
Love it.
So yeah, I think I would say keep moving, keep going. That would probably be
Love it.
my, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, who's your hero and inspiration? That's an important question. Is there someone that kind of, on those tough days you kind of think about in the back of your mind and what pushes you to keep going?
I think my grandmother, and I'm writing a book about her as well, like as part of the memoir. She's been like one of the most strongest influences in my life. She is so resilient, and she is 94 at the moment.
Oh,
And she is somebody who has always encouraged me and always, been the kind of driving force behind whatever I do. And I think she obviously, when I told her about the diagnosis as well, like, I expected her to kind of respond in a very like emotional way, but she was very, like it's okay, it's happened, and this is what we need to do to deal with it. So it was like that. And I think she's always been like, whether I was 4 or 34 or whatever, I mean, she's someone I've always gone to for advice. And I think she's kind of drilled into me that resilience and the perseverance that I really am grateful for, really, for those values that she has drilled into me.
well, thank you. And tell her we also send our love to everybody, including her, and we can dedicate today for her. So I appreciate it. And
Thank
before we get to the final question, I didn't know if there was any other areas that you wanted to touch on, and also how can everyone out there listening reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me via Instagram. So mommy.snippets is the best way to get in touch with me. And yeah, and sorry, what was the other thing that you asked?
Anything else that you kind of want to touch on that we might not have covered, or did you think we covered most?
Um, I think
So,
you've covered yeah, you've covered most of the things. Yes.
well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so like I always tell everyone, this conversation cannot end today. It has to continue until we find a cure. We have to keep obviously supporting you and supporting each other and everyone
Yeah.
out there. Just again, please go to Instagram, Mommy Snippets. I like and follow all of her posts daily. And if you're kind of a tough day and need to smile, that'll help too, because she'll be out there dancing on dancing the day away.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
I think the words of encouragement would be that unfortunately, at the moment, I cannot see a light at the end of the tunnel, but like we can create our own light in the meantime. I think, you can do things that make you happy, and don't rely on external sources to get that happiness. Try and create it yourself, I would say. And I would say, like, when you are experiencing a bad day and when you're experiencing low moods, which I do as well, I try and not dwell too much into that. Like, experience that, of course, but try and come out of it, because that's not going to help you. You're just going to spiral downwards. And always remember, remind yourself of the good days that you had. I think that always helps me. Um, and like I said, for every bad day, there will be a good day. There are times when my medication has worked for like 7 hours in a row, but there are times when my medication has not worked at all. So I think it's just, and and I think accepting that and dealing with ambiguity. I think that is something that personally I have been able to cope with the condition in a way, because I am like trying to get comfortable with these two aspects of it. And considering that I was a complete control freak before diagnosis, it's just been a really long journey, but I'm getting there. So
Thanks. Well, like I told you when we started, you inspire me, and I hope that you also get an opportunity to inspire so many. And that's all up to everybody listening to share this, to support you and all you do. It's just incredible. And I'm so honored that we had the opportunity to speak today. I do have a little message for you and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone.
thank
I, along with my amazing co-host here and guest, will advocate for you. And together, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, because even though I haven't just gotten started, I remember seeing you, kind of a year or two ago, and uh, I was just in a little bit of shock, because I was like, here's an individual who's incredible, you, and that you could really make someone smile and realize they're not alone.
you.
Just wanted to share your journey with the world, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to that interview online plus today. And I hope
Absolutely.
that our friendship, continues for many years to come. But more importantly, I hope, we do have a cure. And I also agree that some days it's tough. You're not sure if how
Mm,
cure. I mean, my mother struggled. I remember this is like 7 years ago. I remember reading there's a pill coming that it'll give a cure. And we just kept our
yeah.
mouths open, like, please, please. And it didn't come in time for our family.
Yes.
But there's just so much still hope. And seeing you out there fighting makes me want to kind of jump by your side and start dancing too. Thank you again
Oh,
for everything.
thank you so much, George. Thank you. It's been lovely. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. So much more to come. Again, whenever you're having a tough day, just go to Mommy Snippets and smile and dance. I bet you if you dance right alongside with her, she'll be thrilled. And that I think dance, positiveness, poetry, all kind of is like it kind of clings to other people and they join in. It's like something that captures so many minds when we don't realize that it's so inspiring. So again, thank you for all you do, your friendship, and everyone. Thank you for following along. Please share this, and we send our love and support. This can't end today. This conversation, it has to continue till we find a cure at the doorsteps of everybody throughout the world. So thank you again. We send our love and
Thank you.
support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.